Thanks for tuning in to the Charles Novell School of Music podcast, The Best Day Yet. Here you'll find tips, insight, and information to help your music and your ministry succeed. Whether you're a singer, a musician, or a songwriter, we want to help you where you are, but we also want to help you get to where you want to go. We believe that our talents are God's gift to us, but what we do with those are our gift back to God. Yesterday's information is important, but what we can learn today will make this the best day yet. Hey, Rob Novell with the Charles Novell School of Music. I wanted to remind you about CNS 24 that will be taking place July 14th through the 20th at Murray State University in Murray, Kentucky. This is your chance to study with the best in gospel music. For more information, visit our website, www.cnsmusic.com. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Charles Novell School of Music podcast, The Best Day Yet. I am Rob Novell. I am the host of this here podcast, and I am excited that you're here and tuning in today. Today's going to be a little different. Subject matter that I believe God has laid on my heart, and it's kind of geared around a recent post that I put on social media on Facebook, and God's kind of had me thinking and going through some things. I received some comments, some messages, some texts, some phone calls about what I had posted, and I saw it to be beneficial for people. One of the phone calls was someone I haven't talked to in quite a while. In fact, high school, and a long time ago, since 1987. I have we've communicated a little bit on Facebook, but I've not talked to this person like we did today since 1987. And so we're going to talk a little bit on this subject. And what it was a great conversation that this guy and I had today, geared off of the post that I had put up, and was just a time that both sides of the conversation could encourage the other. And at the end of the day, you all, that's exactly what we should be doing, is encouraging one the other, operating out of love with people, building people up, not tearing people down. But unfortunately, that's just not how things roll. It is 2024, and I don't even think you have to find a reason to offend somebody. You can breathe the wrong way, and someone will be offended. But we should be building each other up. We should encourage each other. And, that is such a big part of the ministry side of CNS. So, I'm not going to make any apologies, because I believe this is where the Lord wants us to go today. But this is probably a lot more of the ministry aspect today than it is the musical side of things. But I promise you, all the things we're going to talk about will apply to your music. It's going to apply to your life. It's going to apply to your ministry, and it can apply to your music. And our topic today it's kind of odd. It's kind of one of those maybe head tilters. If you're tuning in to find out what I meant by the title, then good. The title of today's episode is Succeeding to Fail. And it is not, actually, let's start here. I want to read a couple quotes that I found that were timely and inspiring to me. The first one: failure is part of the process of success. People who avoid failure also avoid success. Next one: you always pass failure on your way to success. That one's great. You always pass failure on your way to success. Now, that doesn't say, but it implies you're gonna fail before you are successful. If you've listened to enough of these, I've probably mentioned along the way that next to God, my wife, my kids, my mom, sometimes the dog, my biggest love is basketball, especially college basketball. Go Bearcats! I'm a huge Cincinnati Bearcat basketball fan, and I also watch the NBA. And several years ago, the Lakers, Kobe Bryant was when it was his team, not the current guy who thinks it's his team. That has to play under two Kobe jerseys don't get me wound up on that. It was the NBA Finals, and it was Game 6, and they were heading to the final game. The series, the Lakers had lost that night, and the series was tied 3 games apiece, going to Game 7. Game 7's winner would determine the NBA champion for that year. Things didn't go well for the Lakers, and Kobe was interviewed after the game, and he said 3 words that night. I know I've mentioned this before, but he said 3 words that night that were extremely impactful for me. He was asked by the reporter, what do you have to do different in Game 7 to assure yourself and your team that you will win the championship? And he had a 3-word response, and he turned around and walked away. He said, adjust and advance. Adjust and advance. So on your way to success, not only that quote again, on your way to success, it says you will always pass failure on your way to success, but you're always going to fail before you get to that success. So that's just part of the process. Here's one other one. Never let success get to your head. Never let failure get to your heart. And that's really kind of our launching place tonight is succeeding to fail, and maybe mending our hearts. All right, so I share scripture on here from time to time, but man, we're going in the deep end tonight. I'm going to read the entire chapter of Genesis 37, and I'm reading this out of the musician's favorite Bible, the Amplified version. This is where we first meet Joseph. This is where the Bible introduces us to Joseph. So, starting in verse 1. So Jacob, which is Israel, lived in the land where his father Isaac had been a stranger, or a sojourner, or a resident alien in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, when he was 17 years old, was shepherding the flock with his brothers. The boy was with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's secondary wives, and Joseph brought back a bad report about them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all of his children because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a distinctive multicolored coat. His brothers saw that their father loved Joseph more than all of his brothers, so they hated him and could not find within themselves to speak to him on friendly terms. Are you connecting the dots yet? Here we go. Now Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. He said to them, please listen to the details of this dream, which I have dreamed. We brothers were binding sheaves of grain in the field, and lo, my sheaf suddenly got up and stood upright and remained standing, and behold, your sheaves stood all around my sheaf and bowed down in respect. His brothers said to him, are you actually going to reign over us? Are you going to rule and govern us as your subjects? So they hated him even more for telling them about his dreams and for his arrogant words. But Joseph dreamed yet another dream, and he told it to his brothers as well. He said, See here, I have again dreamed a dream, and lo, this time I saw 11 stars, and the sun and the moon bowed down in respect to me. He told it to his father as well as to his brothers, but his father rebuked him and said to him in disbelief, What is the meaning of this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers actually come to bow down to the ground in respect before you? Joseph's brothers were envious and jealous of him, but his father kept the words of Joseph in mind, wondering about their meaning. Then his brothers went to pasture their father's flock near Shechem. Israel, Jacob, said to Joseph, Are not your brothers pasturing the flock at Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them. And he said, Here I am, ready to obey you. Then Jacob said to him, Please go and see whether everything is all right with your brothers and all right with the flock. Then bring word back to me. So he sent him from the Hebron valley, and he went to Shechem. Now a certain man found Joseph and saw that he was wandering around and had lost his way in the field. So the man asked him, What are you looking for? He said, I'm looking for my brothers. Please tell me where they are pasturing our flock. Then the man said, They were here, but they've moved on from this place. I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. Verse 18, And when they saw him from a distance, even before he came close to them, they plotted to kill him. They said to one another, Look, here he comes, this dreamer. Now then, come and let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits, which was a cistern or an underground water storage. Then we will say to our father, A wild animal killed and devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. Now Reuben, the eldest, heard this and rescued him from their hands and said, Let us not take his life. Reuben said to them, Do not shed his blood, but instead throw him alive into the pit that is here in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him to kill him. He said this so he could rescue him from them and return him safely to his father. Now when Joseph reached his brothers, they stripped him of his tunic, the distinctive multicolored coat which he was wearing. Then they took him and threw him into the pit. Now the pit was empty, there was no water in it. Then they sat down to eat their meal. When they looked up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, east of the Jordan, with their camels bearing ladanum resin for perfume and balm and myrrh, going on their way to carry the cargo to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, What do we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let us instead sell him to the Ishmaelites and Midianites and not lay our hands on him, because he is our brother and our flesh. So his brothers listened to him and agreed. Then as the Midianite and the Ishmaelite traders were passing by, the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit. Then they sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And so they took Joseph as a captive into Egypt. Now Reuben, unaware of what had happened, returned to the pit, and to his great alarm found that Joseph was not in the pit. So he tore his clothes in deep sorrow. He rejoined his brothers and said, The boy is not there. As for me, where shall I go to hide from my father? Then they took Joseph's coat, slaughtered a male goat, and dipped the tunic in the blood. And they brought the multicolored coat to their father, saying, We have found this. Please examine it and decide whether or not it is your son's coat. He recognized it and said, It is my son's coat. A wild animal has devoured him. Joseph is without doubt torn into pieces. So Jacob tore his clothes in grief, put on the sackcloth and mourned many days for his son. Then all his sons and daughters attempted to console him, but he refused to be comforted, and he said, I will go down to Shiloh, the place of the dead, in mourning for my son. And his father wept for him. Meanwhile, in Egypt, the Midianites sold Joseph as a slave to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and the captain of the royal guard. So, here's where we're going to start today. Don't be afraid to dream the dream that God has given you. We see in the story of Joseph where not once, but on 2 occasions, he shared the dreams that God had given him to his brothers. They did not receive. They did not accept. In fact, they were envious and jealous of the dreams that God had given to Joseph. Don't let anyone dictate the dreams that God has given you. People are not going to see things your way. They're not going to believe in your dreams. They may not want to support your dreams. And that's okay. The biggest and main reason that it's okay, it's not their dream. It is your dream. That is between you and God and someone out of, like Joseph's brothers, coming from a place of jealousy, enviness, anger, rage, childness. They're not going to understand because they're not capable of understanding your dream because God gave it to you. He did not give it to them. Don't allow people to keep you from doing what God has called you to do. If He has given you on your heart a mission, a job to do, a calling, then it is nobody's responsibility to see that through but yours. People are going to have comments. People are going to say their thing, opinions. Whew. I heard years ago, and boy, it stuck with me. It may have been my brother-in-law the first time I heard this when he was preaching. He said, opinions are like armpits. We all have them, and sometimes they stink. It's that simple. People are going to be very opinionated. They're going to be quick to tell you that what you're doing is wrong, that what you're doing doesn't work, that there's better ways to do what you do. I've had people this year. I've really rolled through this subject matter quite a bit. If I wasn't confident in the fact that God gave me a mission, God gave me a job, God gave me a dream, then some of the things that have been said to me would derail me, would discourage me, would cause me potentially to even want to quit. I've been told, well, little backstory. I've grown up in this school. You've heard me say it. I have not known anything else in my life than this school. And growing up the way that I did, I felt at an early age, I felt a call on my life to go into music. And most importantly, I answered that call. And along the way, yeah, there were different things that would try to discourage me. We're going to talk a little bit about failure here in a minute. Things where I tripped up, I fell, wanted to stay down, but luckily I had parents that were extremely supportive, and my dad would say, Robbie, it's okay. Get back up, get back on the horse, get back in the race. It's not over yet. So I grew up in this school. This school shaped my life. It shaped my music, and it has shaped my ministry. On a couple different occasions, I found the call on my life through the Charles Novell School of Music. And when my father passed away in January 17th of 2020, it would have been really, really simple, the easiest thing to do. Now, see, here's the thing. Here is the thing. On that path to success, you're going to pass failure. The easy thing when my dad passed away would have been for me to say, you know what? My dad put in 58 years into this school, into encouraging, motivating, teaching individuals to be the best that they could be unto God, and fold the tent and kind of just let things go off in respect to my dad and not continue or pursue the future of the Charles Novell School of Music. That would have been the easy thing to do. Make no mistake about it. When you are doing what the Lord has called you to do, there's going to be opposition. There's going to be resistance. Things are going to come against you. You're going to be under attack. It's just how that works. But here's the thing. we have been instructed to put on the full armor of God so we can withstand what is thrown our way. Funny thing about that full armor of God, it works. But I got on the scale the other day, and you all that full armor of God is heavy. It's heavy, and apparently it made the scales say I was more than I am, because that morning I had donned the full armor of God over my life. But here's the thing: we're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna fail. That's the title today: Succeeding to Fail. It's not how many times we fall down; it's how many times that we get up. So don't be discouraged. Don't by the naysayers, by the opinions. So some things that have been said to me recently is I only am running the school because my dad died, was the word I was given, and heired the school to me. Y'all, when these words hit my ears, I was on a mission that day. God had given me some instruction of how to handle something. Ask and you will find, right? I had an issue I had to deal with, and I talked to God about it, but more importantly, I decided to, Rob didn't want to handle things the wrong way. I wanted God to speak to me so he could speak through me. So I went into a fast. I wanted to make sure that I was hearing from God and would handle things the way that I wanted to be used. I wanted to be used properly. I wanted God to speak through me. I wanted the situation, I wanted love to be demonstrated. I wanted understanding. I didn't want any more confusion, because it was confusion that had got me to this crossroads of having to address a situation. So I know I went in there and did what God told me to do. But there was a couple times that, I've been raised Pentecostal, and we believe in laying on of hands and that practicing that fivefold ministry. And a couple times I was ready to launch across the room and take care of some things that I was hearing. And that's in the flesh. Look, I didn't do that. I stuck to the plan, what God had asked me to do. But man, when you hear things like that, it's easy to be discouraged. It's easy to be confused. But here's the thing. I went in there knowing who I was, confident in what God has called me to do. The reason it's 2024 and I'm running the Charles Novell School of Music, it's not because anything was aired to me. It's not because I'm just following the family business, even though I am. That's not the foretold reason as to why I'm talking to you today. The reason I'm here is God placed a call on my life to continue the heritage, the opportunity, and the success of something that was 58 years old under my dad's leadership. So it wasn't anything I had to do. It's something I get to do. And boy, we've talked, especially on some of our podcasts dealing with practice. I've said it over and over. We should not endure what we do. If we're called to do something, we shouldn't endure a call. We should enjoy a call. And honestly, as hard as some of the things that situation was for me to hear, I left that situation a better person. Number one, because I stuck to the dream. I was told that I don't run this school properly. My dad ran the school better than I did. That my vision was that I didn't care about our students. I do these podcasts weekly for free, and we put them out for free. You can monetize things like this, but God's not said to do that. This is an extension of the Charles Novell School of Music on a weekly basis. We want to take 30, 40 minutes to come and speak to you on a weekly basis, to give you a topic at hand that I believe God has dropped into my spirit, that whole speak to me so he can speak through me phrase that I said earlier. I just want to take a few minutes to encourage you, to motivate you, to speak into your lives, because we are about the building up of people. When I was told I don't care about, man, we do these podcasts for our students. We do what we do for our students. There are so many new things that God has us doing through the Charles Novell School of Music just over the last 4 years. And that growth that we're seeing is because Isaiah 119, if you're willing and obedient, you'll eat from the best of the land. Here's the thing. Again, I didn't have to move the school forward, but I was willing to hear God say, move the Charles Novell School of Music forward. I was obedient to say, absolutely, God, I accept that challenge, that mission, that dream, that call. And we've seen growth because of willingness and obedience. It's one thing to hear something or say something. It's another thing. Integrity is when you walk it out. So don't let anybody, some of the Debbie Downers, the negative naysayers, don't let them get you off course of what God needs you to do. So I'm gonna read the post that I put up here recently. It says, I'm thankful to serve a God of second chances. I've made mistakes and even played the victim card at times in my life. Take ownership for where you find yourself and move forward. You point a finger and there are 3 folded fingers in your palm pointing back at you. There's a reason that I found myself in situations, and that reason was me. Yeah, I could keep pointing the blame on everyone else, or I could point my heart towards God. And then I quoted Psalms 139, 23, and 24, which says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there are any wicked ways in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting. If you want to be willing and obedient to the call on your life, if you want to see out the dream and find success in achieving that dream, don't let people get in the way along the route. You know, don't let people in your past control your future. Might be time to take friend inventory of your life. The most important thing in business is inventory. The most important things in our personal life is friend inventory. If there are people that are holding you back, as harsh as this might sound, and it's time to cut some lines, cut bait, and move on. Move on. If I've talked to young people in the past, and I've told them, look 5-10 years down the road, if you see your current circle of friends part of that 5-10 year plan, then hang on to them. If you look and you can't imagine what you want to be doing 5-10 years from now with those same people, then you know what? It's time to pull the car over, open the door, and say, hey, this is your stop. It's time to get out. So it's important along this journey to success that at times maybe it's time to remove some things from our lives. So succeeding to fail. Part of that is again, how many times we fail. The Bible says, Psalms 37:24, though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholds him with his hand. My mind goes back when I was a kid to the Roadrunner cartoon. And if you remember that cartoon, it was a repetitive scene. The coyote would be setting some trap to catch the Roadrunner, and the chase was on. And we'd watch them and hear the music playing, and get all excited. Is he going to catch the Roadrunner this time? And then he would always kind of get to a curve, miss the curve, or miss the road closed sign, and he would fall. The coyote would fall to the bottom of the canyon floor, and there was always a big poof that would go up on the screen. But y'all, the very next scene was the Roadrunner back in his dream. His dream was catching or the coyote was back into his dream. His dream was to catch that Roadrunner. So the repetitiveness was, there would be a scheme there would be a chase, and then there would be a fall. And we'd see him laying on the bottom of the canyon floor. The very next scene, he's back up and he's back in the race. As my dad said, get on the horse and get back in the race. It's not over. Unfortunately, I think what we do through failure is opposite of the coyote. When we fall and we hit the bottom of the canyon floor, we're content to stay there. We don't want to try to get back into chasing our dream. We want to just kind of roll around on the bottom of the canyon floor and let all that dirt and all that grime just kind of saturate us and what we're wearing and that season of our life. And if we're not careful in that season, it's really, really easy to allow bitterness to set in. And once bitterness sets in, then here's the thing. I mentioned the victim card. There have been times in my life where, man, my attitude was, can you believe they did that to me? Why did that happen for that person and it hasn't happened for me? God, I've been trying to achieve this level of success in my life, and I'm not there, but I'm looking at other people that are. And man, I've worked hard. I've done this. I've done that. I've been told that I haven't had to work for what I've accomplished, in my music, my career, my ministry, that it was all handed to me on a silver platter because my last name is Novell. Y'all, that is so far from the truth. Nobody knows how hard I've worked but me. And it requires that. My dad would say, Robbie, what you can get whatever you want. You just got to roll up your sleeves and get after it and go after it. But when that bitterness sets in and you start playing that victim card, man, you want to blame everybody else but yourself. The most important thing in failing is admitting that you messed up, admitting that you created the situation that you find yourself in. And it's back to Kobe Bryant, man. It's adjusting, making some adjustments, and advancing. Then we represent the coyote. We get back up, we get back in the race, we start pursuing our dream. But if we're not careful, man, the victim mentality game, it's very similar to the game of dominoes, because we're going to start to see in season after season after season, we want to point the finger. We don't want to accept the blame. We want to dish the blame out onto other people, other situations, other circumstances. And we can't grow that way. Y'all, you cannot get to success if you stop at failure. Man, I don't have time to get in, but I've shared before, when I think I was 17, I had my first audition for a group. And again, been in this, all I ever wanted to do was travel and play for a group. And my dad took me all the way from Cincinnati, Ohio to Branson, Missouri to audition for a group. And I got there and I fell flat on my face. This audition could have not gone any worse. And we left there. I was really down. I was really discouraged. And we probably went 100 miles and Dad and I didn't say a word to each other. I think he knew he was in there. He had two perfectly good ears. He heard what happened. And I don't know, probably mile marker 101. My dad said to me, he said, Robbie, do you want to hear how this will never happen to you again? And, I think I'm leaned up in the fetal position against the door, and I probably was in tears and said, yes, Dad, speak to me, talk to me, tell me, give me this magic. And I'll never forget what he told me. He said, Robbie, the way this will never happen to you again is the next time you're going to work, you're going to prepare yourself, you're going to practice, and you'll be ready for this. But you didn't put in enough effort in this time. And I've kind of given you this 100 miles to let you feel that, to let you see that. So Man, it wasn't pretty, you all. It was failure. If I had stayed there, then I would never have fulfilled multiple dreams that I've had in my life if I had stayed on the bottom of the canyon floor. But I got up, dusted myself off, said, you know what, it's time to get back in the game. So that was a pivotal moment for me because things greatly changed after that. The whole you've never had to work for anything. Are you kidding me? Up until that point, maybe they were spot on as far as this audition that I went to Branson, Missouri for, my first one. The next one went better because I was better prepared. Then God has a way of just blowing your mind. I've had doors open for me where I didn't really have to have a formal audition. I just was asked to be part of maybe a particular evening, and that ended up kind of being maybe a audition, but not in the way that I had to face this thing at age 17. So, man, God has a way of just honoring and blessing Isaiah 119, our willingness and obedience. Back to Joseph, just to wrap up here. Misunderstood, envious of, jealous. Man, the story of Joseph is our story. What a roller coaster ride. Think about it. From the pit to the palace, to the prison, back to the palace. And we don't have time to get into the actual scripture, but the PRV, the Pastor Rob version today, paraphrasing, at the end of that story, Joseph's brothers find themselves before their brother and see that the dreams that were shared with him were reality. And, I think people, again, they don't see our dreams because it's not their dream to see. They're looking through the lens of jealousy or envy, being envy or pride. Pride gets in the way. So when we see the conclusion of the story with Joseph, it was a young man that did not give up on those dreams. He pushed through, again, from the pit to the prison to the palace, back to the prison, pit, palace, prison, back to the palace. Second in command of all of Egypt. Unbelievable what God can do with us if we don't stop at failure. If we push through and we keep saying, yes, God, that's you. Send me. I'm willing. I'm obedient. And y'all, the rest of Isaiah 119 says, we'll eat from the best of the land. Again, a little different today, but just sharing what I believe God wanted me to share from my heart. And I promise you, if on a weekly basis, if you take into account the things that we share, the things that we talk about, especially today in this area of dreaming, don't allow people to interfere with what God has called you to do and what God has in store for you and what God needs you to do. When you take that stand and you decide to keep dreaming, you're going to find out that that's going to be your best day yet. Y'all be blessed. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Charles Novell School of Music podcast, The Best Day Yet. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under the name the Charles Novell School of Music. And for more information on CNS and our upcoming events, like our online school, our weekend regional sessions, our creative coaching, and our pastor's retreat, you can visit us at our website at www.cnsmusic.com. As you've listened to this episode, we hope that you've gained some information that you can apply to your music and to your ministry to make today the best day yet.